This meeting, special meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council called, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Studebaker.
Here.
Councillor Wynn.
Here.
Councillor Lamont.
Here.
Councillor Wendland.
Here.
Councillor Mans.
Here.
Councillor Kohlhoff. Councillor Kohlhoff, you're present.
Here.
Thank you. And Councillor O'Neill.
Here.
And also joining the meeting today are City Manager Martha Bennett, City Attorney David Powell, and Anne Marie Simpson, City Recorder.
And Ivan Anderson.
And Ivan.
And Ivan Anderholm, Parks and Rec.
Okay, we have an emergency order that's come out from the governor's office. Martha, City Manager Bennett, would you review that a little bit, please?
Yeah, first I'd like to talk about the state of emergency declaration here at the City of Lake Oswego, and then I'll turn to the order that was issued by Governor Brown this morning and how that will further affect city operations. So I think you all know that yesterday I issued a declaration of a state of emergency in Lake Oswego in response to the COVID crisis. There are really a couple of reasons why this is important for us to do right now. The first is the declaration allows us to prioritize the health and safety of the critical services employees. It's very important at the City of Lake Oswego that we make sure we protect our drinking water employees, our fire and police first responders, and all of our employees that work on infrastructure. And so we do things like close city buildings to the public to make sure that we can protect the health of those employees. The other is that the city needs to, in some cases, take measures that are not otherwise allowed in code, and this declaration allows us to make those changes. So, for example, we're going to stop enforcing parking regulations because that's not a place where we need to spend our resources. And as we'll talk about with Governor Brown's order, we are going to make some changes to public access to our parks and close certain park facilities, which otherwise would take a special action of the City Council to do. So that's what this declaration really does. David can explain it, but essentially you have to ratify the declaration within 36 hours of me issuing it. And then your ratification is good for 2 weeks. So assuming we're still dealing with the same situation, we'll be asking you to meet again 2 weeks from yesterday at noon, I think. And David can go into that to make sure we extend the emergency declaration as needed. Oh, the last thing it does is in the event there are federal resources that flow through the states and the counties to local governments, this declaration will allow us to access those. So that's the real reason we're doing it. It really just recognizes that we can't do business as usual in our community if we want to respond to this. So there's a resolution before you in the packet that would ratify the state of emergency.
If we ratify all,
Your audio is cutting out, Your Honor.
so do we have to make a motion to ratify that? Do we have to
adopt the
do we have to make a
resolution.
motion to ratify that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You would make a motion to adopt Resolution 20-09, which ratifies and confirms the city manager's emergency declaration.
Okay.
Move to ratify Resolution 20-09.
Second.
Discussion?
That was.
Councilor Kohlhoff.
So,
Councilor Kohlhoff?
yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The part that's concerning to me is that it appears that some of what we have in there has been interdicted by the governor, and specifically that would be about the parks. If I'm reading carefully, it specifically says no public parks.
Yes, so we'll turn to that next. We will be closing parks today as a result of the governor's order, but the state of emergency allows us to do that without having you come in and amend our existing park rules. So we can do it administratively under the state of emergency, whereas we wouldn't be able to do it without you ratifying my declaration.
Can you explain that a little bit more, David? If we say okay to this emergency order as written, are we saying that we can, or we're outside of what the governor has just ordered? Help me out. I can't
Go
hear
ahead.
you, David. There you go.
Unmute. David,
No, I don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
I don't
ahead.
believe
You're
so.
muted.
Okay, I think, again, which provision you're talking about in the city manager's resolution, or rather her executive order,
Right.
what may be done about parks here?
Oh, that's an
All
example.
right, right, hold on, the city may, I'm trying to find the exact provision. It's a number,
The
5, is that it? Oh, man, let's see. Normal.
The order is pretty general, David.
I'm
It
sorry.
allows us to, the order allows us to comply with the governor's order without coming back to council to act for.
That's correct. Is that the question? Whether we
Yeah.
have to come back to council for the governor's,
I think-
to,
I
No,
think
what
Captain
I'm-
Koloff is worried about whether this would somehow trump or preempt us from complying with the governor's order.
oh, no,
The
not
answer
at
there
all.
is absolutely not. We will comply with the governor's order.
Correct. And this, actually, what this declaration combines a number of things. Typically, all that needs to happen is that the city manager declares the declaration, which then gives her the authority to do a number of things that are outlined in the code, as well as a catch-all provision that says any other measures imminently necessary for the protection of life or property. Now, this particular order declaration includes some orders in it, but what the council is doing is ratifying the declaration, and that gives the city manager the authority, or the continued authority, to make additional orders in order to protect life and property during the emergency, including she could change some of the orders in here, she could do additional orders and so forth. So, as I said, I'm repeating myself, but this model has the declaration and some of her initial orders there. But she'll have a lot of flexibility if you choose to extend it to do what she needs to do in order to preserve the public health, safety and welfare.
So I'm hearing what you're saying, but my concern is still, I would like in there that when the governor orders something, notwithstanding whatever is in our emergency order, that the governor's order overlays and supersedes. That I didn't see in there. And
So I have a suggestion for you. After you deal with the resolution, why don't you offer a motion to tell me that? That's a perfectly acceptable and intelligent instruction. I completely agree with it. We don't want to be doing anything inconsistent with what the state is doing. So why don't you offer that as a follow-up motion? Is that all right?
That's fine.
Now,
And in
David,
general, the
David-
governor's, go ahead.
David, is this an extension of the 36 hours?
Yes. What about the 36 hours, Mayor?
Well, is this, if we ratify this, are we saying that this executive order for city manager goes on for 2 weeks?
Yes, it goes on for a 2-week period, and then you can come back and extend it for another 2 weeks. The way the code is structured, the city manager can do it on her own for 36 hours, but she needs council ratification for it to continue beyond that.
Councilor Wendland?
I believe we're covered because under number 9, it says the city will take all necessary steps authorized by law to coordinate response and recovery of this emergency, including but not limited to requesting assistance from the United States government, the state of Oregon, and Clackamas County. I believe that we're covered, aren't we, with that?
If you're asking me, yes, we are. Plus the final one in code says that you take any action necessary to protect life and property just by virtue of the declaration. Whether it enumerates that in this declaration itself or not, the city manager will have that authority if you continue the declaration.
Councilor Lamont? Councilor Lamont?
Okay, so my question, 2 questions was, this is our resolution. And since I've got the governor's resolution on my other screen, I don't have our resolution. Are we tagging it into the governor's resolution, or is that coming up next? No.
No.
Yes, no.
I think that you need to grant us the power to do certain things locally that are not covered by the governor's resolution. So that's why you're doing the declaration. We will talk next about the additional steps that we are going to take to comply with the governor's resolution.
Okay. So this one says we have a 36-hour emergency order. And then by whatever we're going to do next, we will adopt then the governor's to make it longer, because 36 hours is up in a day or so. That's what was confusing to me. And then the second thing is if we're going to get to the governor's order later, then I'll hold on that one. Okay, so.
Councilor Lamont, I think Mr. Powell just said that the city manager's order will, if we ratify this, will be extended for 2 weeks.
That's
Is
right.
there
The resolution itself does that.
Any other questions or discussion on this?
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Kohlhoff.
the only concern that I have, and it may just be that perhaps some of us are more ardent about the hard and fast restrictions that we really want in place. And so to the extent that we need some sense of where you with the authority will be, maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, let me go ahead and cover what we're doing today in response to the governor's order. So that's why I would direct you first to paragraphs 20 and 21 of the governor's order. So if you can pull it up on your phone, I'm going to look at my other computer, so I'll look sideways for a second. Paragraph 20, the governor orders the immediate closure of all pools, skate parks, or outdoor sports courts and playground equipment areas. So we are moving, I think Ivan can confirm this, as we speak, to close all of those facilities, including the golf course.
Yes,
It is closed. They're closing as soon as we can get construction fencing or caution tape or locks on those facilities. Next item in the governor's order is for public recreation areas that are permitted to remain open, blah, blah, blah. Signs requiring social distancing, we've already done, but we are also going to be closing all city park restrooms, and we will be closing city park parking lots if we can. So people can use the parks if they can walk there, but we will not have large congregations of people like we did over the weekend at Rogers Park, Lusher Farms, some of the sports fields. So that's what we're doing immediately. Ivan, do you want to add anything to that?
the only thing that I would add, and I'll just go down the list, the closure is going to include playgrounds, restrooms, dog parks, Lusher Farm Community Gardens and gardens there, the golf course, all sports courts, all sports courts, all athletic fields that can be locked, all associated parking lots, as well as the water sports center.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Kohlhoff?
You're still muted.
You're muted.
That was Lamont that told me to mute. Yes, as it relates to that issue, that's very helpful. I appreciate that very much, that you're taking that quite seriously.
And then while I have you on the subject, I want to direct you to paragraph 14. Paragraph 14 says the executive order does not apply, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, to local governments. However, those local governments are nonetheless strongly encouraged to adhere to the policies underlying these directives. And so for us, what that has meant is that we are trying to get as many people to work remotely as we possibly can on city staff. We are no longer going to take any walk-in traffic. We are not going to do any work-related travel. And we're going to try to move every single meeting that we can to online. There will probably still be some internal meetings where staff are in the same room, But in those meetings, we're going to try to be much more vigilant about practicing the 6 feet separation between different staff. We're also going to be reviewing our office layouts for those folks who are reporting to work to make sure that they can be at least 6 feet away from their coworker. If you have any questions, I know last but not least, we have moved to essentially what I think of as a no-fault leave policy. So if an employee needs to take leave for any reason related to COVID, and that reason could include that they simply don't want to be at work, they can take any bank of leave that they have accumulated without any doctor's notes or other reasons or pre-approval of their supervisors. I will also tell you that for some of our functions, especially at the water treatment plant, we have moved to sort of an A/B staffing to make sure that if we do have a person who has to stay home, we can still provide staffing. Obviously, fire and police are also in a sort of if they're exposed, staff are going to be quarantined situations to make sure that the entire workforce doesn't get contaminated. We've moved to some very aggressive internal practices. We've also redirected some staff, particularly librarians, away from their regular duties into the call center. I think you know that we stood up yesterday morning a call center. So anyone who has questions about COVID, either locally or in the state or region, can call us, and we will, if we don't know the answer, we will get them to the answer. And it has been a blessing to have people who know how to research on our staff. And so some of our staff are being repurposed, and many of those things can be done remotely. We can give employees cell phones, and they don't actually have to come to it. The call center is sort of a virtual call center. So that's what we're doing to comply with paragraph 14.
Thank you.
I think we lost the mayor. Mayor?
John, why don't you just speak?
Yeah, okay. So I think we've got a lot of new information. And I think most people in the city understand that a lot of great things have happened according to staff of closures and this and that. Now we're really putting more meat on the bones. I just think when we go into the communications plan, which if you're going to detail later, that we have to pull the things out of the governor's directive and our directive that are very simple, like the Louisiana governor's one pager. It's just, this is open, this is not, this is open, this is not, because they're going to have to dig through these paragraphs to try and find out, wait a minute, the playground's closed, but is the park open? So I know we're going to do that, but I just want to reiterate it that we get it done sooner than later.
And we have a motion on the floor. So when we get the mayor back, we should probably resolve that. And Councillor Kohlhoff is still likely to make her additional motion, but
Anne Marie?
he's back.
Yes, Mayor.
Is it? You got-
It sounds like we're having some connectivity problems. Mayor, if you are having difficulty participating, you could ask your council president to preside over the meeting.
That might be a no. Anne Marie, would you like to call the mayor and ask him?
Yeah, I'll step aside and do that.
We're getting back feed. I think we all just got to make sure we're muted if we're not talking. Jackie and Teresa.
I'm speaking to Anne Marie, so I'm waiting to see what we're doing. But thanks, John.
And I
I
suggest
did.
go to
Do you
the,
hear me now?
Yes,
Yes, I can hear you.
I think so.
may I suggest that we put the city, or the council president to run the meeting? Possible? You're on mute, Kent.
he's offline, I believe. Kent? Mayor,
Yes,
can you hear us?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we have a motion on the floor.
You can't hear me though, can you?
Yeah, we can.
We can
So,
hear you.
Councillor Mans, I was
Yes.
just able to speak with the mayor offline, and he is going to listen, but because of internet connectivity problems, he is asking that you preside over the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor for the approval of declaration of emergency. We have John, you made the motion, correct? John Wendland, Councillor Wendland. I seconded. Should we do roll call, Anne Marie? What do you?
Yes, please. All right. Mayor Studebaker, text me an affirmative vote. Councillor Wynn
Yes, I did.
and Councillor Lamont,
Yes.
Wendland,
Yes.
Mans,
Yes.
Kohlhoff,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Councillor Kohlhoff, did you want to make a secondary motion or an addendum to that motion?
I think it was suggested that if I was concerned to make a motion, a further motion, a follow-up motion, which would be that to the extent that there was a ambiguity or a question, that the governor's order would supersede. Maybe David can say that in a way that is reflective of the need, but I just know that we haven't had time to study both. And I would, for clarity, be able to say to people, if there's any question, what the intent is to always follow the governor's order. In other words, that is the ultimate order, and to the extent there was a question about what our order meant, that we would follow the governor's order. That would be interpreted in terms of what the governor had said. I think that would be very helpful.
Well,
City Manager Powell?
Yeah, yes. So really all the council is doing is ratifying the declaration of emergency. Nothing about that contradicts the governor's order or could. I think what I may be hearing you saying is, again, the specific orders will be issued by the city manager, and she could also change the order she has in this particular declaration. So maybe what I'm hearing is that you're moving to direct the city manager to make sure that any orders she issues under this declaration are consistent with the statewide orders of the governor. Is that what you had in mind?
I love it.
All right.
Thank you. That is my motion.
I'll second that.
That would be John Wendland seconding. Any discussion? Anne Marie, can you do a roll call, please?
I will. I don't know if Mayor Studebaker can hear me at this point. Are you able to hear what the motion was, Mayor?
Yeah,
Okay. And let's see here, sorry for the delay. Counselor Wynn,
Yes.
And
Lamont,
Yes.
Wendland,
Yes.
Mans,
Yes.
Hoha,
Yes.
and O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay, and I did get a yes from the mayor. That's a unanimous.
Great. Next order of business.
yeah, how did you hear me say yes or
Yes, we've got you. Thank you, Mayor.
be darned? Okay. Anybody hear me now?
You cut in and out, but we can periodically.
Oh, I'm coming in and out. Okay. I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay, I believe the next order of business was to discuss, City Manager Bennett, will you remind me, please?
Well, when the agenda was drafted, we were going to ask you what your position was going to be on a stay home, stay healthy order, whether you wanted to wait for the governor to issue it, whether you wanted to invite the 3 counties to issue one, or whether you wanted to issue one of your own here in Lake Oswego. Now that it has happened statewide, I'm not sure that item is necessary. I sent you all earlier today a communications plan, which is about how we're going to get more and more information out to the community about what stay home, stay healthy actually means. Because we, like all of you, are getting lots of questions about, can I walk my dog? Can I go to the pharmacy? And so in addition to the call center, we're going to be putting out some more regular communications. There is an item in here essentially that has each one of you playing a role. Probably we'll ask you to do some video snippets that we can push out, or maybe some blog posts that we can put on social media. The other thing that we are beginning to work on and we'll engage with you on as soon as we can get past this immediate action. The next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to be focused on making sure we can get facilities closed and the public information put together. Begin to work on how do we provide assistance to the small businesses that in our community that are most impacted by this closure, and also folks who might be experiencing economic hardship because they've been laid off or they're furloughed in some way. We won't have any news for you on that till later in the week. So I know you're getting pressed. We do have a lot of empathy and sympathy for folks who are affected. But right now we've got to stay focused on how do we actually enforce these orders that have come down. Does that make sense to everybody? But we will probably be engaging all of you because we know you have great connections and we'll need your help. And we'll want you to issue some policy directives around what we're going to do.
Yes, Councilor, come on.
The communications plan is great, and I just think looping the businesses in is critical because there's some angst about some businesses being closed while others are still open. There's unknown who's really providing the takeout or the delivery services. And I've got a couple calls into some folks, but I just think we loop them in so that there's a business section as well. That's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that to the extent that we can push information out about how our residents can support local businesses so that they do as well as can be expected is important. I think if you read the governor's order, I didn't talk to you about the other paragraphs, but if you go earlier in the order, I'm going to tell you in a second, there's a whole long list of businesses that are now affected. It's in paragraph 2. I'm not going to read it to you because there's a whole lot, but to this point, it's been really restaurants and eating establishments and bars, and now it's a whole lot of more folks. Childcare centers are limited to 10 kids a week. So there's going to be a pretty significant impact on our retail sector, and we want to do whatever we can to support those businesses.
Any other questions for City Manager Bennett? Now's your chance.
So does it make some sense to set up a time earlier than 2 weeks to get back as a council? I know you said that you were going to be conferring with us later this week, but it is really helpful to hear my other counselors, and I would hope that that were a possibility. What is your thought on that?
You know, the only challenge is that we have to then notice a meeting. So we'll keep it in mind. If it seems that it would be better to do a work session with all of you, we'll do that. But we're trying to stay super focused right now. So I have appreciated your patience. I know sometimes it's challenging when we're doing things that you haven't been as engaged in. I will say we're trying to communicate with you daily. So if you're not hearing from either me or other members of senior staff every single day, I'll be surprised, but we'll keep you in the loop. And if it seems appropriate to have a council meeting, we'll do this, and we'll do it like we just did it today.
May I call on Councillor Wendland first? Councillor Lamont, are you all right with that? Councillor Wendland?
I just want to thank Manager Bennett and all of her staff. I feel like we've been getting wonderful emails, and I know they take a lot of your valuable time. They're super helpful though, and I think it brings us all up to date, and I certainly appreciate that. And I also know that a lot of your staff has been helping to create all that messaging, and I would say keep that coming. If you want us to meet, feel free to, but I just keep pushing information out to our citizens and us, and it's greatly appreciated.
And I would add the same as John said, in that we have done a lot in the last month. We're not just starting now. And it's a credit to our staff to pull together in this kind of trying time to get this stuff out. So whether we're limiting something or opening something up, we've done a lot, and now we're going to do more. So thank you, Martha and team and the rest of the council.
Councillor Kohlhoff? Councillor Kohlhoff?
Oh, wow.
You were buffering.
I'll make this short. The other thing that I would like to suggest is that everybody on the council has cohorts. They have certain areas of the community that they're particularly in communication with. Maybe it's business, maybe it's school, whatever it is. And to the extent that you can, within our rules, get that information back to Manager Bennett, and she in turn to us, so that it really felt bad, and I wanted to argue with the point, but the fact is people said that maybe we didn't care, that we weren't warm enough, we didn't show the compassion. That hurt, because I don't think that is really what we intended to convey at all. And then secondarily, there's a lot going on really fast. And if we make an effort to get that information to her and to each other, I would really appreciate that. I think we will have served our community well right now when it counts.
Thank you. Councillor Wynn?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest, if it's possible, even though we don't need to have a council meeting, but can we have just maybe like a weekly conference call, just so we can be up to speed, just so that, we can, I think there's something reassuring when we all get together and we're all kind of on the same call here. But if not for anything else, I think just because, we're kind of getting all these questions from different people in the community. And I think that it would just help us to be able to feel more that, we're united, the united front. So, if we can at least have a conference call, maybe make it one way.
I will do what we can. If you guys don't talk, well, even David is going to tell me no. I can see his face. He's going to say no.
Well,
City Attorney Powell.
unfortunately, that would be a convening of the council, and it would need to be and you can do it, but again, we would have to set up some way by which the public could listen to the phone call, such as they're doing today with this video connection. Anytime a quorum of the council convenes to discuss business or including to receive information collectively about business, we do have to follow the public meetings rules.
Anne-Marie, can you hear me?
Councillor Mayor?
Anne-Marie,
I'm not hearing all that audio.
Yes, Mayor?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, Martha, I just wanted to indicate that I get put into these conference calls with the governor's calls, and we're not so far learning anything that we haven't already known. It's basically a method by which some of the elected officials get a chance to sound off. And, but what I will do, if we get any gems out of any of those good suggestions or something new, I will send it out email with council distribution.
Yeah, and I believe the League of Oregon Cities will let anybody who's an elected official or appointed official in any city listen in on their call on Friday. So we can push that information out to you. What I have learned is that the problem with all of the calls we're getting is that we might get information at 10 a.m. on Friday that by 2 in the afternoon on Friday will be completely different. And so it can be a little frustrating, and actually it's not just frustrating, it sort of is anxiety producing. So I feel like you were told one thing and you can't really rely on it for action. So I don't want to do that to any of you either. I want to keep you up to speed, but also don't want to make you feel like, oh my gosh, I thought you said X at 8 in the morning and now at 10 you're saying something different. And that's actually, in fact, what is happening.
I do have a question, if I may. Are we going to continue via video our regular meeting schedule to conduct business?
Yes, we have plans to have you convene just this exact way on April 7th. Actually, we'll have to, I think, have you convene this exact way before April 7th because you'll have to extend the state of emergency. But we have some important public works and construction contracts that we need you to award at your next meeting. And so if you do read through the governor's order, you'll see that there's a lot of our economy that is not stopping, including public construction projects. And so we'll need to keep moving on those things. We won't be putting anything on your agenda, however, that requires an in-depth study session, because I think this is not the best medium for those kinds of conversations.
Probably not. And I do think it offers the public a certain sense of normalcy if we continue to meet on our regular schedule. So thank you for that. Anyone else? Do we need to make a motion for your strategic plan, or is that simply informational?
No, that's mostly so that you know that the communications plan is pretty in-depth and is sort of shifting to a higher gear.
Super. Was there anything else on the agenda? Is there anything else for the good of the order while we're all here? Hearing no, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.